Hello, guys and ladies. I'm Frank from NaWas, and I'm running an on-demand detection and mitigation platform for DDoS. And then you will say, okay, why are you here, Frank? Because we have Akamai, we have Cloudflare, we have so many vendors offering this solution already. Well, there are two reasons for that. First, our services are available through Netnod since last week. That's why they asked me to have this conversation. And secondly, we are a little different than all those vendors because we are a community-based, not-for-profit organization. So, well, it's all about money, of course. Our tariffs are acceptable, and everyone can join if you have an AS number running. So where it started long ago, 20 years ago, NaWas is part of a foundation called NBIP, and NBIP has the goal to help ISPs, VoIP providers and internet service providers, to help the community solve problems who are so difficult that you can't do it on your own. And this concept started in 2000 by solving a problem if a government wants you to place a tap to get information. We call it lawful interception, you probably know it. If you have to get an order, you get an order from a government and you have to fulfill this order by placing a tap in your data center and share data with the government. Well, in Netherlands we have a lot of small ISPs who don't have the knowledge to check the content of this order if it's compliant by law. So it can happen that you get an order from a military intelligence, from a general intelligence, and even a local police agent standing at your desk from, I want you to share this information. Well, so a number of ISPs put money together and said, let's solve this and let's start this foundation helping ISPs by solving this kind of problem. So it started all with the lawful interception. And today we have a large desk of people who understand the extended knowledge and who understand the different laws in Netherlands about placing a tap. So if an order comes in, this order will be checked for you. The information will be checked with the compliance to the law, and then a guy jumps in a car and moves to the data center, placing the tap in the right way, and then it runs. But these orders are also constricted to a certain time, and you don't want to have some guy, criminal or not, behind you because you are tapping illegally. So we also disconnect the taps on time. The other service we started last November is the Clean Networks. I will explain later on. If you are a member of NBIP, I won't translate it because it's still a Dutch name. But if you are a member of NBIP, you can freely use the Clean Networks platform. Of course, you have to pay a little for the lawful interception and the DDoS scrubbing. So during lunch, I got two guys coming to me and say, hey, Frank, who are those actors on the DDoS platform? Who are those guys? And of course, well, with the current geopolitical situation, we all know about the stately actors who jump into the DDoS field and well, misuse the weapon for their goals. But actually, half of the attacks we are mitigating, our platform is mitigating, are done by people you probably know, because it can be your son or your daughter or your nephew or what, who doesn't learn enough for his exam and just DDoS the school website or the exam website, not willing to make the exam. And another big part of those people who can be, well, very close around you are the guys who playing games. Well, I think a lot of you guys playing games, me as well. And sometimes there is real money involved. You can have an asset of 10,000 euro or 1 or 2 bitcoins or whatever. And if you look like you're losing the game, you want to protect your asset, there is a way out, not losing this money. You just DDoS the website. You put out the gaming website, and well, the game is ended, and your asset is still in there. Another abuse of DDoS, misuse of DDoS we see a lot is called RAS. We know about ransomware as a service. You hijack the data of a company, you hijack your systems, and you just let them know that you're there by sending out the DDoS. Can be a very simple DDoS, can be a complex DDoS. And this is a business model. Those guys are really running a business model with separate layers in their model. Some guys sending out the DDoS, some guys are sending those emails, some guys are doing the hacking. It's really a business model. And the good thing about the bad thing is that they use very simple ways of DDoS, so we can easily mitigate that. It's a business model, so you don't invest in complex attack methods or whatever. You use what is around for years. So that's for us easy to mitigate. So those guys are around and maybe more closer to you than you would think of. Of course, we have, well, the stately actors like China. There are thousands of people in China who are able to create DDoS, and the government is putting them in, in force as well. Not sure if you heard about it, but last week we had the Russian attackers group Killnet attacking US government of US airports, US airliners, and well, it was spread out by the news. Everyone read about it. And if you look at the actual attacks, what happened and how easy it was to mitigate, it was not that difficult. So those guys are using the DDoS and the press to spread fear around and to show off their power, which, well, on the DDoS perspective, is not that much intelligent. But everyone was looking, oh, American airport is down, American airline is down, the shit is coming. Well, it's not that bad at all. But the press took it everywhere, so everyone is reading about it and they show off their power. So this is happening in the DDoS field. Those guys are really, well, running this. Who are we? Well, I already explained the initiative started long ago, and we are community-based. So, of course, we have our own team, we have our own equipment, our own network, our own transits. But the knowledge we're building about mitigating is done by the engineering teams of our members. So we have these meetings, we share the projects, we share the knowledge, this is a totally different way of working compared to cloud services like Akamai, Cloudflare, or Noistar, or all those other guys. So we started in 2014. Again, by 9 ISPs putting money together. And you know, if you want to buy equipment for DDoS protection, well, there are 4 or 5 bigger vendors in the world who offer this equipment, but you have to put 300,000, 400,000 euros at the table and another 100K for maintenance. It's a lot. And then you need the guys to monitor and to build the knowledge. So it's a non-business case. You can do it on-prem, but that is only, well, possible for very large companies and enterprise companies. So we solved this and built our own very small mitigation street, which started off with 9 people, 9 ISPs. And if I jump to today, we have 125 members all over Europe and growing very fast. We are mitigating between 12 and 20 attacks every day. And 8 out of 10 are done automatically. Well, there are some internet exchanges where we started to work with. Of course, we started with our friends from AMSIX, and then we jumped over to Links in London. And today, well, it's a kind of a proud announcement to make, but we opened our second mitigation platform in Copenhagen, in Denmark. And we made this agreement with the guys from Netnod that they are able to share our services in the Nordics. So we share a lot of data as well. every quarter, we send out this document. Okay, this is what we see, this is what is happening. And this, for instance, is just part of the infographics. Well, you see the largest attack, and these are the numbers of the last quarter. The largest attack we did mitigate is 200 gigabits per second, which is not super large, but still quite large. And the funny thing is that the type of attacks is not changing. We see DNS coming up, which is more or less layer 7, more intelligent attack. But the type of attacks and the way it's used is not evolving that much. During the period of Corona, well, I think the more intelligent guys, the hacker guys, were staying at home as well. And they thought about many intelligent ways to evaluate attacking methods. During that time, the number of attacks rose, probably because of political situation in the countries. If you want to have your Corona website for a meeting or get your result of the testing, those websites are under attack every day, weeks after weeks. Well, I think the guys who were attacking those websites were more intelligent and were more pushed by different motives than what we see right now. And the funny thing is that after the Corona period, the number of attacks is slowing down. And if you see, maybe you see the reports of Netscout and Akamai and Cloudflare, and they say, no, DDoS attacks is rising. It's getting worse, it's getting worse. Well, those guys are comparing those numbers with 2 years ago, and then still it's rising. But if you see what's happening last year, you see that actually the number of attacks is not growing that fast anymore. And this is good news. Well, the bad news is that you see more and more layer 7 attacks, which are not as easy to mitigate and causing a lot of damage with longer duration. So we see less attacks, but the damage is more severe, and the duration is more severe as well. So it's eating more costs of the companies as well. About sharing all this information and knowledge, the NaWas is joining DDoS Coalition in Netherlands, which consists of several institutions, governmental institutions and universities, where we do a lot of studies and trying to finding out easier ways to overcome DDoS attacks. And one of the projects is that we are looking into recognition of DDoS footprints. Because we have the vision with NaWas, opening several POPs in Europe, that we can protect the borders of Europe and keep, well, the bad traffic already outside of the borders. Then, well, you can already overcome an attack by recognizing it up front. And we are, well, putting a lot of energy together with the University of Twente and other universities to have this established. So it's not only about mitigation, but also about sharing the data we find and interpreting the data we find, and with the goal, well, to protect Europe. Of course, in Brussels, well, they had a wake-up call as well for some years ago, and well, those guys understand we can't be depending on US-based companies. What happens if Trump comes back in the government? Well, I won't think about it, but... so how does it work technically? We have two setups. In Amsterdam, we have a redundant setup. And how does it work? Well, detection is half of the solution. Mitigation is the other half. So detection can be done by hand, but it's not very wise to do it by hand, because what happens in the weekend, what happens after work, and most attacks are coming at night. So there are several tools in the marketplace where you can set up detection. Those tools learn your baseline and you can fine-tune them. So the detection is really done, not creating false positives. So the moment detection finds a prefix under attack, these prefixes, or this prefix is advertised into our servers and routers by BGP session. That's how it works. Then we have first stage of mitigation. That's the pre-filtering done by software on our switches and routers. And actually, we filter like 80% of the volumetric attacks. We filter away in that stage. Then there is a second stage where we have a setup of, I can't say the name of the vendor, where we have a setup of hardware equipment of a vendor. And the third stage is also another vendor equipment setup, but implemented for the more intelligent ways. So I don't know any other mitigation platform in Europe or outside who uses multiple hardware in their way to do the mitigation done. That's typically something we only are doing. It's very costly, but it works. And of course, on top of our own knowledge, we have the teams from the vendors who can, well, help us in case an attack comes in. Well, we don't know about, but it's happening less and less and less. So after the mitigation process, the clean traffic is delivered back to an IX, for instance, all the locations of Netnod, through a private VLAN, or for instance in London at Links through a closed user group. The clean traffic is back to you guys. On the reporting is what's happening, because if your detection tool is set up very well, and based on automatic mitigation, the whole process can be done in minutes, and no one sees. Of course, the day after, if you come back to work, you see what's happening. So we sent out emails. Hey guys, we see an attack coming, and this is the source, this is the destination, this is the type of attack, this is the volume, this is what we see, and at the end of the attack, if we can divide the attack is really ended, we send out this email as well, and this information is stored in the portal. Because many of our members use this information to share with their customers for certification or authentication or other ways. And when the clean traffic is back, well, the whole process can start from 4. So we have a redundant setup in Amsterdam. And now, well, kind of proud to share that we have in Copenhagen another setup of really mitigation equipment. And we will push this into the Nordics to build our membership and community here as well, together with Netnod. So, future plans, because, well, this business is not standing still. And detection is a thing. Many ISPs say, okay, we don't want to spend time there. We have not the knowledge. You guys have to help us because it's very important. And detection can be done as a service as well. Now you put an appliance or a virtual appliance on a VM or other hyperlink at your premises in your data center, and detection is done by reading the flows and sending this information to us. But we have this project running where we can control the flows of our members and do detection by ourselves. This is probably the next big thing. We have a lot of members, but they have their own ES number and they are very specialized in internet traffic. They have not a lot of knowledge about how to manage the internet traffic. But below this level, there are so many companies who don't handle their own internet traffic, but are also interested in being protected. So we are starting this web application firewall where we can protect their websites and their traffic as well. And this is, well, running in a few weeks. Pretty excited about it because we can help the smaller companies here as well. And, well, the clearinghouse I already explained on the anti-DDoS coalition, where we share the information and are building the DDoS pattern recognitions to protect Europe in the future at the borders. So a lot of work. And we're doing this with, well, a lot of engineering power from our members. So this is the motto: together we are stronger. Together we can share data, and together we can fight those problems. So any questions?
So we're running nicely ahead of time. So if there are any questions for Frank, we have time.
No questions?
There's two
okay.
popping up at the back there.
So I was just wondering, how do you manage the multiple vendors in the scrubbing center? Can you explain that a little bit?
So if I understand the question right, we have this.
You had some failover, and then you said, we're quite unique. We have different kind of vendors in the scrubbing center.
Yeah, exactly. Well, the first stage is the pre-filtering, where we work with the switching and routing equipment. And then the second phase, there is a vendor-based set of mitigation methods using in this stage. And it runs through this device. And then if traffic is not cleaned yet, there is the other device with a mitigation set of measures based on more intelligent attacks. And this device runs the rest of the dirty traffic and make it into clean. So it's set up in line. Is that answering the question? Yeah. And we are constantly evaluating the new equipment from vendors and their new versions of mitigation sets, because you see that a lot of simple methods of mitigation years ago done in those expensive equipments can now be done by switching and routing and by much easier. So our goal is to mitigate as cheap as possible and not using the expensive geeks from, well, Arbor, Radware, all those guys. Okay?
Do we have another question? That was the same. I'm seeing double is what's happening there. Okay. Well, if there are no more questions, then please join me in thanking Frank for the presentation. Thanks very much, Frank.
Thank you.